think one of my earliest memories was they used to have a Christmas party here at church in the fellowship hall. This is when I was a little kid. And there used to be somebody dressed up as Santa, and they used to give out presents. But the thing I remember most is they had hot dogs that they gave out to all the kids, and I thought that was just fantastic.
I think one of the earliest memories is Children's Sunday in June, when we could all get a geranium to take home after the children's service. That was pretty neat.
And I remember, again, when I was a little kid, and we had fellowship time before Sunday school. And so we all gathered in the very old fellowship hall and sat in the metal chairs. Were all lined up in rows, and we sat there and we had singing time, and I think Mrs. Berg was the pianist, and she played the piano, and there were announcements, and then we went off to our Sunday school classes.
I'm a Wash Ashore. My family moved down here and retired when I was 13. So I came down here at the start of high school, and my earliest memories are up in what's now called the chapel, but was the sanctuary. Those seats were extremely uncomfortable, even with the padding that was on them. And as a kid, I wasn't too happy sitting on those seats. But
Nobody liked them.
No.
But we didn't know any different, so.
And that's when the four of us all became friends through our youth group. And, and we've been friends since then. So.
Except Nina and Ellen were friends since they were little kids.
Yes, first grade.
No, that was the start, was the youth group. And I think from the beginning for us, for all 4 years, it was Jim and Harriet Stayhauer and Connie and Steve Martin.
Were the youth leaders.
Were the youth leaders, And that kept us going. Oh, I know another memory. I know another early memory. And that was the high school class going over to the Pratt House with Gil Beal teaching
for Sunday
class.
school.
For Sunday school,
There wasn't enough room in the church.
Wasn't enough room in the church, so we had to go over to the Pratt House, the other side of the library, for the high school class. And I got the honor of bringing home the film strips from the high school every Friday and taking them back on Monday. For one of the lessons that we had there, Religions of the World, I think it was.
Yes. That was it.
We used to once in a while we'd get together with the Hyannis Baptist Church and have dances. And I think we even had a retreat at what is now Ocean Edge at La Salette. Didn't we have a retreat there?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. We had a retreat over at Connie and Steve's house in South Yarmouth too.
Right. We all slept in their basement.
But then on a routine basis, we'd get together on, I think it was Friday nights in Fellowship Hall and play ping pong. And
the old Fellowship Hall.
One of those Fellowship Halls.
It's no longer there.
It no longer exists.
It's where our sanctuary is now.
And
part
of it.
And play games and ping pong. And I remember Pastor Mills. You wouldn't know it to look at him, but he was a pretty good ping pong player. So. At least one camping trip at Nickerson State Park. I remember it rained a lot. And as I mentioned in my talk on New Year's Eve, that we went out on the outer beach with Jim Stayhauer and Harriet and in their Jeep. And rode in the dunes out there, and that was a lot of fun.
And we had some other outings too. We went, I forget where it was held, but we went to a serendipity workshop when when that was the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was off Cape.
Yes, it was
So I'm
off
going to
Cape.
say like Framingham
I
or
was going
something
to say
like that.
Framingham, yeah, so
Yeah.
it must be, since
Yeah. Since both of us
Since we
think
both
it's
remember
Framingham,
it's
Framingham, then it
must
must
be
be.
Framingham.
No
Yeah.
argument for me.
And then I also remember going up to Plymouth to see the movie Time to Run, which was
Yeah.
Josh
McDowell.
McDowell. The bus driver that took us up was Bob Linnell. And brought us back too.
Yeah, we made it.
We got there and back.
Well, just like today, the church is all about the people, so, we can just rattle off a ton of names of people that we knew growing up here at the church and were an influence on what we did. I mean, there was a long line of Sunday school teachers. I can remember being in my mom Charlotte first grade Sunday school class, and Mary Ellen Sanders played the piano,
Yeah.
and right on through the different people in the church teaching Sunday school and different things. And
Yep. I think for me, Jim and Harriet Stahauer and Gil and Connie and Steve Martin, but then Connie's parents, Gil and Evelyn Beale, and I have recently remembered that Gil and Evelyn really were, I think, ahead of the times, because they went to, before church started, they went to Latham's and what was then Boxwood. Latham's was for girls, Boxwood was for boys, and picked up a number of kids and these were special needs children, and brought them to church, get them integrated, and that wasn't done, and so they had a love for it, and they did it faithfully every Sunday,
yeah.
and so
And it worked, because they did
Yeah.
it faithfully every Sunday.
Yes.
And people got to know the kids and
Yeah.
got to learn about them and kind of expected them to be part of the congregation.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I think for me, it was Connie and Steve Martin. As I said, they just lived down the street from my folks' house, and it was easy to walk down there, because back in those days, Underpass Road was just a little old street that meandered through Brewster.
yeah.
With the old rail abutment still there. The bridge was gone, but
Yeah.
the rail abutment, no post
It was
office,
an industrial
no
park.
industrial
That's
building,
right.
so you could do that.
Yeah.
You could walk down the street.
Yeah.
I guess you can today too with the sidewalk,
Sidewalk.
but there was no
So it's
sidewalk.
like Connie
then.
and Steve were probably a big influence for me to also. I mean, they made you feel so, and they had Bible studies in their home,
Yeah.
and it was very comfortable, and
Yeah, and one thing that we were talking about earlier today was that we were a youth group, but we were also a group that did stuff together outside. So for me anyway, the friends that I did things with during high school were my youth group friends.
Yeah.
And so, activities or whatever.
blended
That's
together.
right. So you kind
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to remember. Was that an
That's
official
right.
youth activity? Or was that just something we did for fun?
Well, it was nice of your dad and mom to have a '66 Chevy station wagon. That
Yeah,
you
we'd
could
all
pile
pile
a lot of
I was
kids
gonna mention
into.
that. The kid capacity of that station wagon was incredible.
That was back before we
No
worried about
seatbelts.
seatbelts. None of that.
Just pile them in on
Yeah.
the way back.
Yeah. No, that's true. It just blended together.
Yeah.
There wasn't There wasn't really a distinction.
No.
That was really the group we hung out with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was the youth group.
And that was a good thing about it. I mean, just like today, it's not easy being a teenager. And
No.
it's important to have friends in a positive environment, and
Yep.
the church certainly provided that.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it did.
Yep.
It did.
Yeah. And as we've talked about before with other members of BBC, that 3 marriages came out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 marriages came out of the youth
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
There was no dating in the youth group.
No.
No.
That was all post youth
Yeah,
group.
Yeah.
after we went off to college, then
Yeah.
we finally started
Yeah.
dating.
Then we
but-
wised up.
And up to now, anyway, the marriages have held together.
Yeah, I think so.
Next week.
We'll see. We'll see how
We'll
this
see.
turns out.
We'll see how this turns
See where it goes.
I think for me, the most thing that I'm proud of our church is how much we give to our community, to missions. I mean, there's any time that, just even lately, suitcases,
Yeah.
anything that is asked for, it's immediately, gotten. I think that's a big thing for our
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
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 Well, along the same lines, I was going to say something similar, so the giving nature
Mhm.
of the church, but the mission trips,
Mhm.
going back to Puerto Rico one,
Yeah.
and and just going, and yeah, it was January and it was Puerto Rico, so who wouldn't want to go? But it was, I mean, that was a really, for me, that first trip was a really meaningful trip. We weren't living here, we weren't members at that time, but we never weren't affiliated with this church. And Ben mentioned to me this trip was coming up, and yeah, I'd like to do that. And that resulted in a number of trips. I couldn't make them all, but
Yeah, you were on a lot of them.
on a lot of them, and I think it's just reflective of the church and how giving and caring the church is.
I like the way that our church has grown, not only in numbers, but in faith groups that have come. All different denominations and non-denominations, and it's what we're all about. It's what we should be, and we're working towards that. And I think along with that, spiritually, our church is becoming a stronger church spiritually too. And it's special, especially when there are so many churches that are not. They're not growing, and
Struggling.
yeah.
Occasionally I remember something Doug talked about in the sermon, but I remember him talking about unity a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And, that's been a big part of our church, because
Yep.
like you said, Ellen, there aren't a whole lot of traditional American Baptists that are part of the congregation. There's a
Yeah.
whole range of different faith backgrounds, and
Yeah.
Catholics and Presbyterians and you name it. And
Yeah.
that crosses over to the political spectrum too.
Mhm.
And there are people here from Republicans far on the right, Democrats far on the left. And
Yeah.
that's kind of left behind, and we focus on bigger things when we're a part of this church.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's always been true about this church. Thinking back 50 years ago,
Yeah.
there were a number of different denominations represented in the church, and this church has always had retired pastors as part of the congregation. Again, from different.
My family were, we moved here when I was 6. They were Lutherans.
Yeah.
But Lutheran church was too far to drive, so and they were welcome comfortable, so
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
came here.
Yeah.
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 And I think this church has had great stability over the years, too.
We've gone through
There's been some
gone
challenges,
through some
but
thin times,
but
yeah.
compared to many other churches,
Yeah.
they're quite stable.
Yeah.
One thing that I've reflected on with the 200th anniversary is, being here as long as we all have is just all the people that we've known.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
At
Yeah.
the church
Yeah.
that have kind of filtered in and out of our lives as we've been here, and we'll be the same way. I mean, your time here is limited, but the church has been here 200 years so far, and,
Yeah.
Yep.
and God willing, it'll be here at least another 200 years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I'd like to see our church become so integral or webbed into our town, providing services or providing things so that the town really feels that, our church would be, devastated if we were not here. So, really reach our fingers out and touch as many people in our town as we can. That's what I'd like to see.
That's what I was thinking too. Some of the social issues that are plaguing this area and beyond, to try to be able to do something more about it. The homelessness and the lack of affordable housing. Not just try to be able to use our resources and talent to do something more for that part of the population.
I mean, I think our church does a good job between food pantry
Yep.
and sponsoring habitat houses and
Mhm.
all that kind of things, but
Yeah.
just really to see other ways to.
I remember in our small group we watched a series by Andy Stanley called Christian, and he imagines a church where people from the outside of the church are in awe of the church and say things like, see how they love each other. Isn't it just amazing how they love each other and how they care for one another? And why wouldn't we want to be a part of that?
Right.
And that's kind of the vision that I see us trying to maintain. I think we do that well now, but it's hard work to keep it up and
Yeah.
to maintain that spirit in the church, and just remember that we're here to love one another, not just in the church, but as Ellen and Nina said, to love one another outside the church
Right.
as well. So,
Right.
Yeah.
What we do for the community now is terrific. All the events we have here, the facilities
our
open to
holiday
the community.
fair, just
Mhm.
all that money too
Yeah,
that
right.
goes out.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
But even things like just this past week with the primaries, the voting is held in the
confusing.
fellowship hall. That doesn't happen
Yeah.
in a lot of places.
Mm.
That wouldn't happen, but it does here.
Mhm.
It's great.
Well, we are blessed with our facility,
Right.
to
Right.
be able to offer it too.
But we could have the building, but not the relationship with the town.
Yeah.
We
Mhm.
have the relationship with the town. And,
Yeah.
I mean, that was clear when I was on the advisory council. That's what it was called. Yeah, advisory council. When we did the parking lot expansion and did the agreement with the library for
Mhm.
shared parking.
Mhm.
That's something else that doesn't happen a lot.
Mhm.
And just to continue that type of, like you were saying, Neen, to be integrated in the community and be an essential part
Yep.
of the community, and to continue to grow that
Mm-hmm.
and address some of these other areas too, like you were mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
With, that's the future.
Mm-hmm.